Welcome back. Over the past 18 months, we've been looking at Myanmar, the country formerly known as Burma. First, there were the mass protests in 2007, then Cyclone Nargis last year. In both cases, we had a correspondent there as Myanmar's military regime tried to prevent the media from freely reporting on those events. Well, there's another story coming out of Myanmar going largely untold. It's about ethnic tension and the plight of the Karen people. Millions of Karen have been pushing for independence for 60 years now, and although many of them dwell in refugee camps, they feel forgotten by the world's media, which are more interested in Myanmar's political story. The Listening Post's Simon OSTROVSKY now on the Karen people and the media campaign that's designed to get their story on the global news agenda.
This river separates Thailand and Myanmar. I'm about to cross illegally as a guest of Burma Campaign UK. It's a London-based pressure group that's invited a host of parliamentarians, journalists and activists to this border area to see how fighting inside the country has displaced hundreds of thousands of people. It's a story that gets almost no media coverage inside or outside Myanmar. I'm in a refugee camp just inside Burma where campaigners are trying to get the message out about the Karen ethnic minority. They've been fighting the central Burmese authorities for over 6 decades, but very few outsiders know about their struggle.
This area was attacked and burned down by the Burmese soldiers and its alliance, so the villagers had to flee their village and then move down to this area.
The Burma campaign was keen to show us that the conflict in eastern Myanmar was ongoing, with new arrivals coming into this rudimentary camp every month. Yet few reports were coming out about the issue. They introduced me to a woman who was the latest arrival.
Does she have food?
She told me she walked 3 days with her small children, moving only at night to escape her village and get to the relative safety of the camp.
Does everybody she knows get away safely?
Some people die because of the landmine, some people killed, and then some people got injured.
Here, being ignored by the world's media has a direct effect on the aid people receive. Mark FARMANER is the director of Burma Campaign UK. He told me that it was a critical time for the people living in eastern Myanmar because the media had been focusing on the relief effort in cyclone-hit areas in the south, which has led to resources being diverted from those caught up in the fighting here.
In the last hour, we just got a new bulletin, and this is a cyclone we're talking about in the Bay of Bengal.
Despite the military regime's attempts to block the media's access to Myanmar, last year's cyclone and the uprising led by Buddhist monks in 2007 were well covered by the international media.
A lot of people have gone to ground.
I'm a freelancer, and I did 2 reports covering the cyclone, one for this program and one for the Newsnight program of the British Broadcasting Corporation. I have to admit that even having been to Myanmar twice before, I knew little about the plight of the people living in eastern Myanmar until Burma Campaign brought me along on this trip.
Even though the UN has described the regime as committing war crimes, deliberately targeting civilians, there's no attention from the international community. And so we hope that by bringing the media and politicians here, it will try to put pressure on the international community to pay attention to this untold disaster.
How dangerous they are.
The Burma Campaign and exile groups based along the border are trying to promote the idea that governments and international organizations are engaging too closely with the Myanmar military regime in the wake of the cyclone.
There's more than 3,200 villages have been destroyed in the past 13 years. That's double the number that has been destroyed in Sudan. You have large-scale forced labor, tens of thousands of people every year being used as slave labor by the Burmese army. People are used as human minesweepers. They're made to walk in front of the army columns because the Burmese army doesn't keep a record of where it plants landmines. They will come across a village, they will attack it, they will burn it down, they will destroy the food crops if they are villages that are captured. They have a policy of systematic use of rape. This has been going on now for the Karen for decades. Since independence, 1948, is when the attacks on the Karen began.
This was a well-organized trip with a compelling and important story at the heart of it, which the campaigners hope will make its way into the international media. In the past, Burma Campaign has brought British and Spanish parliament members to see the camps, and they've in turn pushed for tougher legislation upon their return to their home countries. We had a member of Belgium's parliament in our group, She told me that she too would push for sanctions.
I decided to join the mission because as a new member of the parliament in Belgium, I find it's very important and very interesting also to see with your own eyes what happened here. I think there is two big measures we could do. First, I think it is a real economic embargo. And I think also we have the power to make things change in the United Nations.
Myanmar's official media see things differently. They show the government as trying to bring stability to an area filled with what they consider to be secessionists and terrorists.
We favor peace. We oppose unrest and violence.
It's a view that exile groups and the Karen leadership have been fighting to counter.
We want the world to know that the Karen National Union is not an armed struggle, that it's not a terrorist and it's not a rebel. It is a democratic organization that defends their own people.
Then, a photo opportunity. Having shown us the refugee camp in Myanmar, the campaigners brought us back across the border to Thailand to meet people who could give us first-hand accounts of the regime's brutality. At the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners, we were shown how activists are treated once they're caught and thrown behind bars.
So for the first day, I was beaten very brutally for over around 200 times with rubber stick.
And this is normal for all prisoners?
Some political prisoners suffer worse than me.
In spite of visual evidence, campaigning groups like the Burma Campaign still find it tough to get the media to give them airtime. Even when there's an untold story with good access and exclusive pictures, the appetite for foreign news among Western audiences is shrinking. For the Karen people on the run in Myanmar, media attention remains as scarce as their own sense of security.
More Global Village Voices now on what's happening in Myanmar.
The situation in Myanmar has only really become apparent since the natural disaster of the cyclone, and the media as a consequence has only really began to focus on this event after such a horrific natural incident. But it's a sad state of affairs where it takes such a catastrophic event to occur that interest is generated.
We can't say that all of the news we are getting from Burma, inside Burma is we can trust or it is true or not, because it depends on the people who are getting the news. We do have a local journalist inside Burma, but they are scared about taking the news and giving it to someone outside from Burma because their life at risk. There are so many military intelligence in the normal clothes, and we don't know who is military intelligence, so they are really scared.
Finally, we don't often run television commercials on the show, but we're making an exception this week. It's called the Cadbury's Eyebrows ad. Two overly expressive kids and a funky techno track have given the confectionery company what most advertisers can only dream of: a viral video phenomenon, millions of hits on the web, as well as a ringtone coming soon to a mobile phone near you. Leaving you now with our Internet Video of the Week, and we'll see you next time at the Listening Post.
Tonight, move your body from left to right. To all you freaks, don't stop the rock. That's freaks, don't stick it in your overhand. Freaks, don't stick it in the house tonight. Move your body from left to right. To all you freaks, don't stop the rock. Oh, freaks, that's freaks, don't stick it in the house tonight. Move your body from left to right. To all you freaks, don't stop the rock. That's freaks, don't stick it in your overhand.